Hello, welcome to my show. And for
Hi,
those of
Julia.
you who, hey Eric, yes, I'm not a pro at this, so I always botch my intros. But thank you so much, Eric Pascual. Right, if
My
I'm saying
pleasure.
it right.
Yep, you're saying it
Um,
right.
yeah, yeah. So this is my Filipino Hustle Fridays show. Happy to have you on. And for those of you who are catching the live later, would love to hear from you and get some feedback on how things are going with these episodes. I keep hearing great things from people, so that's my motivation, and it's an honor to have guests like Eric to talk about his story. And we got to chat a little bit briefly before, and we'll talk about all things related to his main day job and his passion, which is Eats by E. And that's one of the reasons why we reached out to him. We found one of his Instagram accounts, and I was like, this food looks amazing. And he's
Thank
from
you.
California. So, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself? I'm sure you'll do a better job than what I just did.
Sure. Thank you, Julia. Eric Pascual, and as you mentioned, I go as far as the food business side. It's Eats by E, and I am a real estate broker as well. But I think one of my biggest passions in life is food, and it's one of those things that started about a little bit over 10 years ago. But it's been I've been able to handle and like being able to grow that my passion for food and be able to share with other groups of people, whether it's people that come to our pop-ups, our private events, our virtual cooking classes and whatnot. And it's been an awesome experience to be able to share that.
And you started around 2010, right?
Correct.
That's what I gathered. And but before that, like tell me a little bit about, you have a background in Hawaii. Like were you born in Hawaii or were you born in California?
I was born and raised in the Bay Area.
Okay.
My grandfather migrated to Hawaii to work in the sugarcane field. He's actually one of the first waves of Filipinos to work in the sugarcane fields.
Wow.
And it's interesting. I've actually there's this thing that I carry in my wallet, just to remind me like some of the things that he went through. So it's from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics that I found on the BYU website in Hawaii. So I don't know if you can see this here, but it has like his first contract. So it was a year and 9 months, and his compensation was a little bit over $1,800. So even like with that's considering like he worked probably 10 to 12-hour days, no overtime, almost 2 years of work, and that's equated for inflation. That's still like 29,000-30,000.
Wow.
So it's
for the year?
For a year and a little bit over a year and a half.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it actually shows the details. He sent 1,000 back to the Philippines, which is Luwag or Ilocos Norte, and then he kept a little bit over $800 for himself for his living expenses. So it's a lot of sacrifices that he and my grandmother put in to give us his kids and also his grandchildren a better life.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And so then when did your parents move to California? Like you
They moved. It's fun. They moved from. My mom was living in the Bay Area at the time, and my dad was living in Hawaii.
Okay.
So they eventually decided. My mom wanted to, because her family was out here in the Bay Area. She wanted my dad to move out here, and so all my other relatives, cousins, aunties, uncles, most of them on my dad's side are still in Hawaii. Some have moved away, but for the most part, a lot of them are still in Hawaii.
So which part of Hawaii are they?
Oahu.
Oh, okay.
A lot of them located to an area called Mauna Loa Valley, which is about 10 minutes from the airport.
Oh, wow. Yeah. My family went for a high school or family vacation when I was in high school. It was beautiful there. It was a very special trip for us because we never really took vacations.
Oh, wow.
But did you go often? Like, did you visit often?
Yeah, I would, from when I was 3 till I was 18. I grew up as an only child, and my parents would send me off to Hawaii for the summers. So it's from June to August, I would spend my summers there up until the end of high school. and I still go to this day, but I would literally be there from June to August. And so I would, I think part of it is they wanted me to experience the aloha culture, or like the Hawaiian style of living, and also um, experience the culture that, you know, that that the island had to provide. And it's just a huge mix of you know, the people, the food. A lot of the food is inspired by those different waves of migration. So it's the Philippines, Korea, Japan, China. You see all those influences in Hawaiian food, and I think they just wanted me to experience that lifestyle and also the food.
Yeah, I mean, I saw another. I guess you could say on Instagram, a foodie person, and they shared like the richness of the food there. Like
Hmm.
there's something unique about it, because he just got back from traveling and tried all this kinds of food, and he said there's nothing like Hawaiian food. There's
Yeah,
nothing like, you know, the fresh seafood that you get there, and
true.
it's just so then you obviously get inspiration from that, and you experienced wonderful food from Hawaii, and then also from San Francisco. I have to say,
Hmm.
there's nothing like food in the Bay Area too.
True, true. Yeah, I
So
agree. It's
then
just
what?
I was spoiled. I had a spoiled childhood when it came to food. Like I got to eat some amazing things.
Yeah. Speaking of food, I'm starting to feel hungry.
My
So,
grandfather is actually the one who loved to cook. So his spare
ah,
time, he would cook for family, friends, and it would, whether it was a small group of family or a large group of friends and family, like special occasions, special events. He just loved to cook. And my aunt told me that he actually catered to. He did his specialty was lechon karahai, which is sort of it's a twist to lechon, like what people are normally used to having. So it's smoked and then fried pork belly.
yeah.
And I think my aunt told me that he would sell it to local Filipino restaurants, and that was his thing. And he just loved cooking. So that's one of the things that my aunts and uncles tell me, that I sort of inherited that passion for food and cooking from him.
Wow.
Yeah.
He roasted an entire, like,
Mhm. So there's a lot of our family parties. It was one of my uncles. He would create this sort of like a spigot with, like, it was homemade, and they would roast whole pigs, a quarter hind of a cow, and that's just their thing. They would just sit there for a full day cooking, cutting the meat, roasting it, and whether it was for 50 people, 100 people, sometimes we'd have parties of up to 100, 150, 200 people. Just
I know.
yeah, it's we that valley. There were at least 10 to 15 houses of our relatives that lived in that valley. I think to this day there's not as much, but we still have big get-togethers where they would get together in the garage. You would see 50, 60 different types of dishes, you know, Chinese influenced dishes, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, and a lot of your more traditional dishes. And it was just, I think that was a way for my family to kind of pass on and share the culture, whether it was with close friends and family or just neighbors and whatnot. And they just love to host these get-togethers. And I just
Yeah,
love with the food there.
that was the thing. Like, people who eventually learn, because people can't tell that I'm Filipino. So like when it comes up, they're like, "Oh, the food's amazing." It's like, no, number one, and then also you can't ever forget the Filipino gatherings, like the parties that Filipinos throw,
Mhm.
because of how huge, and then not just huge, tons of food.
Mhm. Yep.
I don't know what makes it so unique, because I feel like, I mean, there's other families and, you know, cultures that do it, but I think there's something to Filipino
Yeah.
food party
And
culture.
it's the whole culture. Like I think, yeah, my mom is like that too. She'll force feed anyone that comes into the home. When I was in high school and grade school, no matter what, it was always, you know, she'd feed you dinner and then try to feed you a snack an hour later, and you know, another meal a couple hours later. That was just part of my culture, the household, and it's part of, I think, also the giving that's usually like
Yeah.
part of the Filipino culture. It's just they like to give, especially I see it in my family quite a bit. Both my
And the
mom and dad,
hospitality.
hospitality.
Right. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's go back to your youth. When did you start? like you're doing your brokerage, right? Like at what some point, like where did you go to college? Where did you go? You know, which part of Daly or San Francisco did you live at?
I grew up in the East Bay and San Leandro and Castro Valley.
Oh, okay.
And I started off school for college. I started off at San Jose State, and then I finished off at University of Phoenix. So I was pretty much working. Well, I've been, I think, since my late teens, early 20s. I've been technically self-employed. So it started off with various businesses. Some failed. Actually, quite a few failed. I did stick to real estate, which is one of the things that I focused on after college. Actually, during college as well. I started my first business, I think, in my late teens.
That's young.
It was. We were doing like sort of like communication, and it was actually a retail store in Union City. So it was a cell phone / communication store. We did a lot of like corporate and it was a retail store as well, but we focused mostly on corporate accounts. But at the time, I went into business with friends, and sometimes you learn. That's probably some of the most difficult venture you can go off is in doing business with friends, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that unfortunately didn't pan out. That was probably about 4 or 5 years, and then at the same time, I was still learning and focusing on real estate. I think at the same time, and I eventually transitioned to real estate.
Like full time.
Yeah, pretty much full time. Yeah.
So the brokerage right now do you own it?
No, not.
Okay.
I chose to be independent. I owned a brokerage before, probably around in the early to mid 2000s. For about 7 or 8 years, I had my own brokerage, managed a group of agents, and at one point we're about 15 to 20 of us.
Wow.
But it was just too much of a liability and too much. It was just too much of my time that was involved in trying to manage and at the same time handle my own clients. Yeah, exactly, managing people. So, and I think I was at one point that I've something always in the back of my mind that I always wanted to be involved with food, or venture off into something with food. But the real estate side of me is my kind of the Filipino side of wanting to help people. Like I've always, the one thing I'm passionate about is, and that side is I enjoy the aspect of helping people and helping, it's helping a lot of my clients with considerably one of their biggest purchases and investments in their life. And that's what's continued to be able to like motivate me to keep consistent with real estate. And also there's a part of the real estate business where I involve my food business as well, where a lot of my clients, after they close or after or if they work with me, I offer to cook for their friends and family. And usually it's 15 to 20 people. So if it's a housewarming, and
that's smart.
One source of marketing for my real estate businesses through that as well, through doing the sort of events and housewarmings as well.
I love that idea. It's like a natural way for people to meet the person who helped them, close on their new location. And it's just like, this is the guy, natural introduction. And then let's have fun, in the meantime. That's so smart. So yeah, you must have grown an extensive network in the past couple decades, just being there.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things now that I'm kind of adulting, I was like, what was I doing? I was in San Francisco in college, and I really could have, taken the opportunity to meet amazing people while I was there. But when we're young, we take for granted what's right in front of us.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, so then with that, like, since we're on the brokerage topic, I wanted to ask you, like, I wish my parents met you a long time ago, because we met this guy who sold us a property right before 2008, and he was misleading to many Filipinos in the neighborhood. If this was an expensive location, he fled the country, let's just say. Misled a lot of Filipino families to purchase, huge homes that they couldn't afford. So when 2008 happened, everyone lost a lot. including my parents. And
Oh,
so yeah, you just like a trustworthy person that they probably would have saved a lot of money if they went with you. So what happened for you around that time? Like, I know you said people that you knew went through a lot too, and how did you guys bounce back from that?
so that time, I remember it pretty vividly. It was a pretty difficult time as well. His business, it's sort of at a point where I had to downsize the real estate business. Um, but also what happened at that time is, let's see, what, 2008. There was a point in time where I decided that I wanted to invest in a cafe and start a cafe.
Oh,
So that was a really, it was just, this is another story of another failed business, but it started off really well. The money that I'd earned from real estate, I'd wanted to find that food business, and the cafe was an opportunity that came about. So I went into business with three other people, and it is about the time when that hit. So it started off, we started before then, so it started off really well, and then it kind of went on a downturn once the economy started hitting the fan. Um, and at that point, I invested a lot of the money that I had saved from real estate and from my earnings, and so that was a really tough time in my life where I think we owned. It was about 6 or 7 years that we owned the cafe until we decided to sell it. Fortunately for us, we purchased the building as well. It was a small space, but I think that's what kind of helped offset some of the loss. It was still a pretty significant loss for us, but it was also for me, I think, the biggest learning experience when it came to food. I learned, for about 5 or 6 years, I was the one pretty much running it, operating it, managing it, at the same time still trying to do the real estate business and trying to keep that sort of afloat. So
yeah.
it was a big, although I consider it as a failure, it was still a big learning experience, and it's how I learned a lot from the food business. Even my two partners at the time, their family owned a restaurant, so I would go to the restaurant after I was done managing the cafe and just kind of, it was an open kitchen, so I would just sit there and watch, and I think that's where I picked up a lot of techniques and just the basics too of working in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That kind of picked up and learned just from watching them. But yeah, that was definitely an experience. I think though that was where I, part of me sort of regrets doing it, but part of me also looks at it as a huge learning experience. I wouldn't probably be where I am as far as the food side if I didn't go through that. It's just unfortunately we started at a difficult time and where the economy kind of hit, but in the long run it all worked out.
Yeah.
Sort of at the tail end of when the cafe, um, that whole business is when I kind of started. Well, either that or right after that is when I first started the pop-ups, and that was like a little bit after 2010. Yeah.
And I think that's what people don't know who's never started a business before or who are considering entrepreneurship. Like, part of the journey is you're going to make mistakes. And you hear from people who have succeeded and they can look back and say, I made a
Yeah,
lot of mistakes, but in order to get to that level of success, you need to make mistakes. Like, it's part of
it
it.
is.
So it's like, to me, failure is part of the journey.
Exactly. I
I know
completely
I've
agree.
made a lot of mistakes too.
Yeah,
I
it's
still make mistakes.
especially when you go through it. When for me, especially trying to start when I was young, I was a little hard-headed and naive to certain things, and it took me, those failures to figure out what I wanted to do and which direction I wanted to go through, and it helped thicken my skin and um, prepare for other ventures that I wanted to get into.
Yeah, which leads me to my next question really is so with Eats by E, like, it's after a few years of that 2010, what made you want to start that?
So the first pop-up all started off as a challenge. I think there was someone that uh, it was an acquaintance at the time from the cafe. They had tried the food and they said, "Oh, what?" There was a platform called Feastly. It was a website and a platform from the East Coast. They helped you host pop-ups. It was a platform to host pop-ups, and it was sort of a challenge, like, why don't you host a pop-up? And at the time, I only enjoyed cooking for friends and family. The thought of cooking for someone that I didn't know was it was frightening to me.
Yeah.
And something just said, why don't you do it? It's just, you love to do it. It's worth a try. Give it a shot. And it was the first pop-up. I think it turned out okay. But the whole part of the experience of it, of going through it, and also getting the feedback from people that attended, that they enjoyed. It was half friends and half people I didn't know. So I fell in love with it. It just became something that I wanted to continue doing. And for me, I wanted to continue doing it as long as I still got that positive feedback and
Yeah.
enjoyment out of doing it. And we've since then, I think we've done in terms of public pop-ups, I think over 500. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, the whole
That's
pop-up
a lot.
experience. And I think for me, it's being able to, it all starts with the introduction and sharing my story, and also sharing the inspiration behind each of the dishes. So for me, it's growing a bigger or a stronger connection with my late grandfather, late grandparents. So I get to tell their story, and also get to tell my experiences with food, and my experiences growing up in Hawaii and in the Philippines, Hawaii and the Bay Area, and then also the influence from my culture from the Philippines.
Right.
So I think that's what sort of makes it unique in a sense, and I still want to continue doing and hosting these events. And one of the photos that you mentioned there, Chef Lanai, is someone I met at one of the pop-ups about, I think, 5-6 years ago. He's a cooking show host in Hawaii. And I've
Oh,
always heard
wow.
about him growing up. So he hosts a show called Cooking Hawaiian Style. He's been on Food Network. He hosts
Oh, wow.
he started off in radio and TV, and he came to one of my pop-ups about 5-6 years ago.
This
And
one here?
let's see, it's the one, yeah, we did this one. This was an event that we hosted for Okta. It's a tech company. They flew us out to
Oh,
Hawaii about, I think it was about 5-6 months ago.
wow.
I did that event with Lanai, and that whole relationship and connection with Lanai was he was visiting the Bay Area to film a pilot show for a cooking show.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was called the Pop Up. And the producer called me 2 days before asking if there's any seats available. She wanted to bring him to the event, and we actually sold out. And what happened was the day after, or the day before the dinner, there was 2 seats that opened up, and I said, you know what, just bring them on. We can fit two more seats or 2 more guests. And it's kind of where the relationship started, as far as like doing these events together and collaborating. So I think since then we've done at least maybe 50-60 events. We've done
Oh my
Vegas,
God.
yeah, Vegas, um, Atlanta. We did Atlanta this year,
Wait, you
Hawaii,
travel?
yeah. So
Oh,
we've
so like I could hire you to do an event here?
Mhm. Yeah. So the whole concept with Lanai, our collaboration, is he shares the history of Hawaiian style food, the waves of migration. So we start off with China, Japan, Korea, the Philippines, um, Portugal, and then he shares the history dating back to the mid 1800s, and I share the food in terms of the food that I grew up on. So he shares the story, you share the food, and sort of we call it Hawaii, a culinary crossroads. That's the name of the event, and it's a whole food and history event. It's like usually about 2 hours long,
Oh
usually
my
6
gosh.
courses, and we dive into the history of the food and the history of the migration through the
Wow.
plantations back in the days, dating back to when Captain Cook, arrived in Hawaii. So there's a little bit of Hawaiian style food, a little bit of Chinese influenced food, Korean influenced food, Japanese influence, and
Those are all
Filipino.
my favorites.
Mhm. So that connection, and I'm super fortunate to have been able to make that connection back then, because it's being able to share the history and being able to share the experience is super meaningful for me, especially since my grandfather, he made that trek back in the day. It's learning about it more and more detail about especially some of the experiences that he went through, and some of the struggles and whatnot. Yeah, it's been super meaningful to learn about some of those things.
That's so awesome. It's truly like an honor and a tribute to your grandparents. And it's so, I can tell like so much heart and love towards your grandparents and even the, ancestors from the past. And so, yeah. Oh my gosh, that makes me so, the reason why I'm excited about it is because I am trying to get into more events in the coming year, not to do the food at all. So
I would love to do it.
just planning on hiring, so like if you want, and so you do private events and obviously like with Silicon Valley, like I'm jumping ahead, but I wanted to ask you to, getting into, I guess, the smaller events, and then it just grew obviously in the last 13 years since 2010. So now like you're managing multiple businesses. So is your brokerage like kind of, the security side? Because I know anything related to food or restaurants, not that you're doing a restaurant, it's hard to scale. And there's something challenge to it. Like when COVID happened, you talked about how you had to adjust when 2020 happened.
If I didn't have that cafe experience, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Like learning how to do all the spreadsheets, learning how to calculate profit and loss, and learning how to, it's a food business is a completely different animal having to deal with it. And I think learning how to operate and to scale things from my experiences helped me out quite a bit. That and just being fortunate to have met and collaborated with a lot of chefs, a lot of restaurants, a lot of people in the food business along the way have helped quite a bit as well. I think that's been super helpful. But as far as like the real estate side, I think where everything sort of just clicked is being able to combine the two business in a sense. So having the food business sort of supplement the real estate business, and being able to share both through both businesses has been a plus. I think, and also working independently. I do work with two other team members in the real estate side, where the both are actually based out of Fairfield and Sassoon. Lee and Darlene, how's it going? I don't know if they're watching, but yeah, so I have two other partners that I work with on the real estate, so we sort of work together on a lot of our transactions and collaborate as well. So
I wonder if they know my sister, because my sister's like the social butterfly in Fairfield. They probably
really?
Small town.
Yeah, so, it is a small town.
So maybe they know each other. I don't know. That would be funny.
Yeah.
She lives in the East Ridge. Have you ever been to East Ridge?
East Ridge.
Like, it's like the private community, the gated community, or
sure they're familiar with it. Okay.
Just moved this year to Concord.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, small world. But that's so cool. Okay. So then that's great that you have it. It's like the steady, and then you have now it sounds like a lot of fun. I would love to crash one of your private events.
Yeah.
So like with your events, like, do you only take a certain size? Like what is your parameters? Because obviously
you try to aim for 30 to 40.
Okay.
30 to 40. Cool. We've gone up to, for pop-up dinners, we've gone up to, I think, 7. The biggest pop-up that we did as far as public events was about 70. And we actually did this one in Hawaii this past year, or this year as well. It was for an organization called Safe Ride Hawaii.
Oh.
So they try to promote, it's basically an organization that provides a ride to help avoid drunk driving.
Oh.
And the organizers or the founders of it, their daughter actually passed away from that. I think, I don't know how long ago it was, but so they host these events, and it's an organization that raises funds to promote.
So then they use the like a private event to do fundraising for that, which is great. We have a lot of nonprofits here in Tallahassee, like in the thousands.
Oh wow!
They need like these kinds of things. They need more of those kinds of you probably have some great ideas too. What you've seen, because Silicon Valley, obviously, there's the uber wealthy, there's the not so wealthy.
Yeah.
I've seen them on the streets. It's sad. But then there's like the smaller businesses that also, there's probably a lot of nonprofits there too. How are they surviving in the Bay Area?
It's a tough climate where a lot of the cost of living, the cost of just doing business alone makes it difficult, makes it a challenge. So I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely it's just a challenging environment for a lot of businesses here. But it's either a lot of the nonprofits as well. So we network with quite a few, and we try to business with quite a few, and try to help or even collaborate with some of them when possible.
Yeah. So I know it sounded like you did some events for tech companies. Has that been like an ideal scenario for you because there's so many tech companies over there?
Yeah, we've done quite a few, whether it's private events, a lot of our private events that we do. The thing is, a lot of companies that want to provide a different experience than your typical going out to a restaurant or going to a steakhouse. So I think giving them an experience where they can learn and hear the inspiration and hear stories behind some of the dishes, and it's a completely different dining experience, I think, than what they're used to. It's usually a plus or something that's attractive for them to try out. We've had quite a few, and also we've done during the pandemic we had to pivot, so we did a lot of virtual classes, virtual cooking classes, and we're still trying to do some of those to this day. We partnered with a company called Sacred Kitchen, where yesterday I was helping them pack kits for a virtual event in 2 weeks. So we're making bibinka. So we put these little kits together, and we're shipping them out. They're shipping them out today and tomorrow, but they're going to I think 57 guests for this company.
Wow!
They're based out of the Bay Area, but they have a lot of people living and located throughout the country. And I think a couple of them are going to Canada as well. And so it's going to be a 1.5 hour class or so, where we're going to show them step by step on how to make bibinka. They've got little things of ube extract in there, and they can customize the cakes as well. So for those that don't know,
cool.
It's a rice cake, and it's
okay.
It's a dessert.
That's like a whole nother concept that I mean, that one I could see being a scalable model. And I, have been consuming courses and also building courses. So like, I think anyone who knows how to do anything related to food, that is your other source of income, just like a virtual option if you create a product online. So when you say like you've been doing courses, these are live courses, or are they like recordings?
They're live.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of them are done through Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
The kit they get, in the kit there's all the ingredients that they need to make bibinka. I think the organizer is putting a little like holiday twist to it, so they've got like a little chef hat, like disposable chef hat, some holiday candy, and some other stuff. And there's also ingredients to make a cocktail in there. I think this year they're doing an ume plum ginger beer cocktail. So that's in there. We tried to get calamansi in there, but we couldn't source enough calamansi to put in the boxes. So you got some mandarin oranges in there.
I've never heard of that as a good substitute.
Yeah, all the ingredients to make bibinka are in there: the rice flour, the sugar, the coconut milk, coconut oil. So we're doing a vegan version, so there's no butter in there. There's coconut oil and a few other ingredients to also like help them customize it. And we'll just go on live, go step by step on how to make the bibinka. All you really need is a whisk or a spatula, or I've done classes where I've done it by hand. So it just depends on what's available, but they can make it easily within 15 to 20 minutes, and in the oven for another 30, 35. So it's about an hour and a half class. And,
that's great. So then, okay. Like, for example, this makes me curious now. If somebody would reach out to you and say, hey, I want to do an online class, and it's going to be a charity of some sort, or, whatever it is, like maybe just even a company wants to entertain their team members, right? And then so like everyone's remote, like that's kind of the new workforce that's happening in the next, the future workforce. So they reach out to you, and then you have it all planned and organized. You send out the kits, and then you have a scheduled event for when you cook live or do the demo live. And then, oh, okay. So that's it.
That's pretty much it. They get the instructions and the recipe, and then we walk through them step by step from preheating the oven to finishing cooking the cakes. It's all done step by step, and there's usually, say the company I work with on these collaborations, they're really good about helping set up the video. They have a video and audio person on site to like help everyone kind of set up everything, make sure everything's working properly on their end.
Okay.
About an hour and a half for the class. There's like a section where they allocate for trivia, and then kind of like it's just to try to promote a team building experience for the guests.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Now I'm understanding more too. Like, with Sacred Kitchen, they have an actual venue.
So for them, they do everything pretty much virtual as well, but they have a main location where they set everything up, but everything pretty much is done virtual, like where they ship out and pack kits.
Wow.
They have a location where they do that, but it's primarily just for that. And then they do the virtual stuff from their kitchen, but a lot of what they use their location for is just for packing and shipping the kits. And this event that we're doing is a 57, but when I was there yesterday, I think they had one for like 100 plus. Yeah.
So would you say like it makes sense to, because they work with you, there's a partnership, I'm guessing. Either somebody can ask you to do something similar for their organization, or go through them. What do you recommend?
They can go through me either way, but if they want a more like class more focused on some of the dishes that I do, then I can help sort of customize it for them.
Cool.
Versus for what they do on their end is sort of a different cuisine.
Yeah.
But like the Filipino stuff, we're able to do. We've done 4 events together, at least 4 or 5 events together within the last couple of years for these virtual classes. And then the pandemic, we did a bunch of other ones too, like with Yelp and a couple other different organizations that we put together just solely on our own. But it's tough as far as like the tech side and being able to coordinate. If it's a company event, then they have all the back end stuff that we need to getting it run smoothly.
Right. Do you have a course already that you're selling too?
Just
the next project.
Course, yeah. So one of my projects that I've been working on is my first cookbook. I was gonna ask. It's called Summer in Hawaii. It's primarily focused on my grandfather's journey from the Philippines to Hawaii, and then also the influences of the food that
cool.
Food influences that I grew up with in Hawaii, but it's primarily showcasing his journey from the Philippines to Hawaii, and then also the dishes that I grew up on. So sort of like what the pop-up that we host focuses on, but yeah, I'm excited about it. It's been a long project that I've been working on.
All right. So then if anyone wants, like to follow that, obviously I'll go ahead. Like I've been sharing your socials throughout. Like there's Facebook, you're going to announce it on your socials, right?
Yeah.
And then there's Instagram. You got almost 10,000 followers. That's awesome. Was that all organic?
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of it was organic.
Who's that? That looks like
That's Lanai.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, that was in Atlanta.
That's awesome.
We did an event in Atlanta this past September. That was an experience.
I really like Atlanta.
We did an event for a group of attorneys, and it was people in the insurance industry. And the difficult part of these offsite events is trying to find a venue or location, and we connect with a restaurant in there, Atlanta. It was a beautiful restaurant.
Yeah, how'd you find a place? Okay, where?
It was just calling, networking. It was actually a good friend of mine, Abby, who connected us with someone that knew someone that managed a restaurant in Atlanta.
Awesome.
Yeah. But about 2 hours before the dinner, the kitchen caught on fire.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Luckily, there was two kitchens. There's one in the front and one in the back. And I guess there was someone in the front that was burning. I think they were going to smoke something, so they were getting the wood ready, and it caught on fire, and the fire sprinklers went on.
Oh my goodness.
Chemicals that it omits, like they don't, because it was, luckily we had two separate kitchens, but they almost shut us down. And so that was, yeah, it was a curveball, but we definitely dodged one there, because they let us still continue with the dinner, but it was about an hour and a half, 2 hour delay. But at one point it looked like it wasn't going to happen.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That makes me, because I have good friends in Atlanta, I don't know, like I could ask around and find out, so then that way you can get locations ahead of time too.
Yeah.
And then if you need suggestions in Florida.
Oh yeah, I'd love to put out there.
Would be happy to tell you about it. Like what so like how does it typically work with your partnership with Lanai, or I guess like how big is your team? Does your team help you find the venues, or like usually if a client were to approach you like, hey, I'd love for you to run an event, do they pick the venue for you?
Sometimes they do, and sometimes we'll need to research. Luckily we have a good network and contacts. And our team is really small. There's usually, most of the events lately, it's been my good friend Jeremy, who helps out and with prep and at the events, and also my wife Danielle helps out as well. So it's a pretty small team, and I'll have other people when they're available. A lot of people that help out, they've got other projects or other work commitments that they have. But usually there's just, at most of our events, it's no more than 3 to 4 of us.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then I have one of my nephews who loves to cook as well. He's in the kitchen helping sometimes. Ezra, he's 15, I think, 14, 15, but he just loves to cook and loves being around food. So he's been a huge help as well. Yeah.
That's great. Because I'm managing too much, like I don't cook as much as I probably should. Like you might have seen my post because I saw that you followed on YouTube, but I recently posted about how I don't cook as often because it helps me save time. But yeah, no, that's awesome that you guys can manage well with the smaller team. But yeah, like the reason why I keep thinking of these questions is like, if people are wondering and they want to reach out to you and hire you to do private events, like how does it typically work? Do you want them to go through your website and book a session?
That's usually best.
Okay.
There's a section on the website where you can contact and leave more information about
your online right here.
Yeah.
Click online. Cool. Yeah, your presentation is really, really nice. Oh my God.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, it looks amazing. It's
years
like
and years
quality.
of trial and error. And also when I first started the pop-ups, I think what helped me a lot was offering to volunteer with a lot of local chefs, spending time with them, volunteering at their pop-ups, volunteering at their restaurant, volunteering at their dinner. I think that was a huge help for me to kind of find my own style, find my own technique for work. It just, I didn't have that experience, so I needed to find that from somewhere. I knew how to cook for friends and family, but in order to come up with my own style and my own way of cooking, I needed to spend that time with other chefs and just learning, which I've been, I was fortunate to have gone through that experience, and them giving me that opportunity was huge as well.
Wow, that you're. I mean, I feel like one of the key characteristics of entrepreneurs is the willingness to learn, and so like you took on that, even though you've had an amazing, experience with growing up with food and people around you who loves you to cook and everything. You still wanted to learn more. And so wow, that's pretty cool. And I'm excited to see your cookbook.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's still work in progress, but I'm
when do you
shooting for
think
next
you'll
year.
be publishing it?
I'm shooting for the end of next year. We've done the photos already, but the writing part, I wouldn't consider myself like a writer, so that's been the more challenging side. But I've been working on it and just jotting down my experiences and the recipes and whatnot. But end of next year is a target. Hopefully by FAHM or Filipino American History Month.
Yeah.
By October next year is the target, is the goal.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you have it, I mean, even if you want to start promoting it before it's published, like that's what I see marketers do. We'd love to push it out because, even though it's slow growing as far as my channel goes, I'm still happy we're going to start emailing our guests and people who want to follow the channel and the show about everything related to the guests. So happy to push it out. And I will just let me go ahead and share your socials because.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then people go check out his website, Eats by E. And then, of course, here on Instagram, you saw his beautiful account there. Please follow him, like him, reach out to him. And I would love to keep talking, but I know we are both super busy entrepreneurs, and I want to thank you for being on the show. This was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Holly. Julia.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'll see you on the other side. Do you want to end with anything else before we go?
No, just thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity to share kind of my story and my experiences. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where you take off from here because you've already hit success with what you've been able to do. And so I wish you well, and I'm going to continue to follow your journey.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
I'll see you on the other side.